Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell. Today we bring you an encore presentation of one of our very favorite programs. We'll still be live with you this summer, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then come September, we'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming. Until then, enjoy this encore presentation and make it a great day.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Steve Stites, Chief Medical Officer at the University of Kansas Health System. Welcome back to Open Mics with Dr. Stites. If you had the power to save someone's life by donating a kidney, would you? When Cindy Diedrich, a die-hard K-State fan, found out her uncle, a KU Jayhawk, was in desperate need of a kidney, okay, wait a minute, she's a wildcat, she decided to look into the process of becoming a living donor. And what she learned surprised her. Janine Keesley has a story of these two loving rivals and the journey they took together.
I had a checklist of questions.
From the moment Cindy Diedrich learned her Uncle Stephen was in trouble, she was ready to help any way she could. He needed a kidney. Cindy looked into whether she might be a match.
So you all set?
I am.
Okay.
As soon as she found out she was a match, Cindy was ready to donate. Still, she had questions she needed answered.
I wanted to know what I was getting myself into and whether or not I needed to be concerned as I grow older with having one kidney. And all those questions were answered, and I feel good going into it.
When Cindy got the call she was a match, Stephen didn't realize she'd already completed the necessary testing. She called her uncle herself to give him the news.
So as soon as I answered, she says, yeah, she says, what do you got going on in June 6th? And I go, is that the day you're gonna come? Do you need to spend the night? She goes, nope, been there, done that. Just want to give you my kidney that day. Oh my God. It's a full range of emotions hitting you all at once. Something I'll never forget.
What are we doing for you today?
Giving me a kidney. Hallelujah.
On June 9th, Cindy and Stephen underwent successful surgeries, and Stephen can get back to living the life he loves.
I'm ready to help my uncle, and have him feel good enough to hang out with his kids and his grandkids, and having that energy to be able to do things with his grandkids. I think that's going to be the most satisfying thing out of this.
They're not going to slow me down. I'll be there for my grandkids and all their activities, and looking forward to it.
And Cindy is looking forward to reminding her crimson and blue loving uncle he now has purple deep inside.
I've been telling him through this process that, your heart may belong to KU, but your kidney's going to be a K-Stater.
You can't put it in words how much it means. I just appreciate her so much for doing this for me.
What a great story. We have a lot of tears here in the studio right now. We're pleased to have both Cindy Diedrich and Stephen Thon with us in the studio. K-State, KU, they can live and work together. That's impressive.
Miracles do happen.
Miracles happen. And we are also delighted to welcome Dr. Sean Coomer, Vice President of Perioperative Procedural Services at the University of Kansas Health System. A lot of words. He's a good guy. He's also a transplant surgeon. With him is Tim Schmidt, another really good guy, Director of Transplant here at the University of Kansas Health System. He, too, is a transplant surgeon. He's the head of transplant here at KU. A lot of words again for both of you. Oh my God, you got glasses on.
Yeah, it's getting older, man. I'm catching up with you guys.
Steve, let's start with you. How long have you been having kidney problems?
It started about 8 years ago with renal disease, and got real close to kidney dialysis. But I was able to hang in there with some diets and keep going before dialysis hit.
How did those problems affect you physically?
Huge. No activities hardly at all. Moving slow. My wife would be going, can you move it a little bit faster here? And I go, I'm doing the best I can.
You're probably pretty exhausted all the time.
It was very tired.
Just tired. They don't feel well, and you get all these kind of poisons building up inside of you, so you just feel sick all the time.
Yep.
Is that fair?
It is. It is.
Cindy, when you heard about your uncle's condition and you knew that it had deteriorated, it sounds like you didn't hesitate.
Nope.
What did you do?
So I called my aunt And I said, what do we need to do in order to get this thing started? Because I didn't even know what my blood type was at the start. But I said, I think I'm going to give Uncle Steve my kidney. And that's where the journey started, and didn't look back.
But you didn't tell him you were being tested, right? This
Well,
is kind of
originally he knew, but then we had a little setback because I had some, I don't know, some numbers on some blood work. I don't remember. So they wanted me to wait several months and then get retested. So we waited, I don't know, like 4 weeks. And so I started through the rest of the process, but I didn't tell him this. And so then when I called him to tell him that it was a go, he thought I was just going to come spend the night because I had testing to do, as opposed to we're going to get cut open and we're going to donate some kidneys. So.
big moment to come here. So what do you have to, what kind of things do they have to do to test you, et cetera? And by the way, that's kind of a cool purple and white. There's some theme going on here.
Yeah,
I know, it's a little bright too.
You
I don't know.
Got to represent.
All right, so what was involved in all that testing?
Well, I was interviewed by several different people. I had to go through a questionnaire about, my mental health, making sure that I'm doing this out of the goodness of my Purple Heart. And just
There is
making
this
sure
rivalry. If you haven't picked up on it, there's a little Jayhawk Wildcat thing here going on.
But just making sure that I was in a good place to do it physically and mentally. A lot of blood work and just counseling and making sure that I talked to the doctor and got all my questions answered, and then we were ready to roll.
Yeah.
So when they told you that you were a match, did you think for a moment, what the heck am I doing here?
No. Now my husband, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Because he was supportive until he found out that it was a go, and then he was like, well. So yeah, I never hesitated.
Now, Steve, it sounds like it was a complete surprise when Cindy gave you the news.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that moment.
I got a call. And Cindy, I had caller ID, and I said, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, she's coming in to finalize her tests. And when she gave me the news, it was total elation. I was immediately started boo-hooing. I'm going, whoa, this is unbelievable. Are you kidding me? No. Better keep that date open. I said, it's open. It's open.
So now both of you, what was the whole transplant day like? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was excited. I know most people would probably say that they were really nervous, but I was ready to get it moving and do it and not look back. So I don't know, what about you?
A lot of excitement, moving slow and easy, and just total jubilation. Crazy day, but loved it. Had total faith in the doctors to do their job, and they did, and what a blessing.
And so how soon after the surgery did you feel a difference?
Immediate.
So when you woke
I'm
up,
in
you're
my,
like,
I'm
this
in my
is
hospital bed, and I could tell the difference. It was like, I'm wanting to get out of bed, and the nurses were going, no.
You got to move a little slower right now.
Yeah,
a little slow.
I know you're wanting to be active, but you got to play it cool. And I'm going, really? Like how long? Like a couple days? No. More than that. But anyway.
You know, some kidney recipients will say they didn't know how sick they were until they suddenly got the new kidney and felt the difference.
Yes.
Is that
Huge.
fair?
Yes, absolutely. I would ask
slow,
my wife.
gradual decline, all of a sudden, boom.
It's crazy. I asked my wife, was I that bad? She goes, yeah, you were bad. I go, wow. You know, it's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
All I remember is now. It's crazy how much energy I have.
Yeah.
Really. I'm sorry if I look like I'm on something, but it's like,
you're just full of energy. Good, man. It's good to feel good, right? It's good to feel good. Okay, Cindy, talk to us about your recovery and hospital stay. How long did it take you to feel good again?
Well, I wasn't expecting not to be able to sit up and things like that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. But my husband was a very good nurse. And I would say the first week was a little slow going. After that, I read a whole lot of books at home and didn't push going back to work, and loved every second of my time at home. So
let me ask you, did you think your husband was doing such a good job? Did you maybe just drag it on a little bit?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting right there. So how has your new life changed with this kidney?
Night and day. 5 weeks after the surgery, I'm still at home, and I'm going, no, I've got to get out. And I'm in home health care and stuff, right? And I go, no, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to work today. I'm going to the office. I got things to do. I've got clients to see. She goes, you crazy? I go, nope. Might be, but I'm going. So I did, and I came back, and I forgot I had a visit with the home health nurse.
Oh, okay.
So she comes, and I'm dressed up, and she goes, why don't you dress up real nice? It was an afternoon appointment. I'm going, yeah, I went to the office today, worked about 4 hours. She goes, you know what that means? Yeah. I got to release you. I go, you got to do what you got to do. But I got to do what I got to do.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to turn over to our two transplant docs now for just a moment, because these guys are awesome. We talked to them all day long. I don't want to ignore you both. Maybe I do. I don't know. Yeah. So, Dr. Kimber, how common are these whole living kidney donor things? Let's talk a little bit about that.
You know, we feel like it's very common, and we do this every week, and it's like an everyday miracle. But in reality, it's about 10 to 12% of kidney transplants across the United States are living donors.
So it's not uncommon, not the most common. Is it tough to find a match?
It sometimes is. We have a lot of programs out there where, yes, people can be related and they have a lot of matches and so forth, but there are a lot of programs where people show up with a donor and they don't match. So we can do paired donation and create chains and so forth. So we do our very best, and we have a whole infrastructure behind us that helps us get that done.
Okay, you mentioned something like about a great chain or a chain reaction. You want to talk a moment about that?
Sure, absolutely. Most common kinds of situation is an altruistic donor comes forward, and then that altruistic donor gives to recipient A, donor A gives to recipient B, and so forth on down the line. And we've actually done a chain here of 10, so 5 donors and 5 recipients. So.
And they're all, it all has to do with who can be the best match for whom, but you got to have somebody to kick it off, and then somebody else can get it. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so as you looked at all that, tell me a little bit about, do kidneys behave better from a deceased donor or a living donor?
So by and large, a living donor, that kidney can last about 3 to 5 years longer than the average deceased donor. Okay. Furthermore, it's an elective surgery. You're not getting called at 3 in the morning and saying, come on in, we're going to give you this kidney. And so things usually kick in right away. It's pretty amazing. You saw on that tape that I was kind of looking over Dr. Schmidt's shoulder, like a big brother, actually.
No, you're a big brother. We admit that.
I'm just older. But really, it's curiosity. You kind of look, and it's really amazing to see the kidney that I just removed from Cindy is being sewn in by Dr. Schmidt and to Steve, and you see it pink up, and you see it make urine right away. It's an incredible miracle.
It is a miracle. And Dr. Schmidt, it's got to be just heartwarming for you to see the same thing when you put it in.
Yeah, we do a lot of surgeries, but this is probably my favorite case because you take the kidney, it's cold, and this kidney, I was like, it was talking to me on the way over. It said, please thank me out of this purple body. Put me in this blue body, and started peeing right away. And it's just a great case because the kidney.
Blue. I think, are you talking about because they don't have enough oxygen? But no, you're talking about KU.
Yeah.
I was a little slow, but I got it.
It's happier in its new body. It's working great now. And yeah, it's great to see it go from not working and then it just starts making urine right on the table. It's fascinating. It's fantastic.
How long do you think that kidney's going to work?
Longer than he needs. I think it's going to last them. They can last 25, 30 years.
That's impressive. But these people have to still take medications for it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why all the testing's done before to see how they're a match, to see how much immunosuppression they might need. But yeah, if he takes his medication as directed, this kidney should last a long time.
Every day. I have not missed a day.
So, Prograf and cell cells are pretty common transplant drugs. Do you have to use the same doses as you do in a deceased donor? Can you maybe, because the kidneys are a little more related, back down a little bit?
Yeah, there are some times where you can use less doses and have lower levels with living donors because you know exactly how the match is.
Yeah.
So usually closer match than a deceased donor.
So you have maybe a little less worry about rejection, so a little less meds. And those meds have kidney side effects, so that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the less medication you can take is better for the patient, better for the kidney, and it's just better for long-term outcomes.
So logistics of doing 2 operations at once, how hard is that to plan? Especially when you got to work with this guy.
Well, the OR has set us up nice because we have our rooms right next to each other, and so Dr. Coomer usually gets started with the donor, and then we make sure everything is going well, make sure there's no issues, and then we bring the recipient back. So when the kidney's ready to come out, we're already ready to sew it in. So the kidney's only cold for usually about 30 minutes.
All right, that's pretty amazing. Kidneys can be cold for a while. I think it's because deceased donors fly all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, you can technically keep a kidney cold for probably 24 hours, but it slowly dies over time. So the less cold it is, the better off you are long term.
So things got a lot more complicated. We're going to talk about this long distance travel here. For organ transplants back in 2020, when the United Network for Organ Sharing, UNOS, came up with a new way of distributing available organs. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I think it's a challenge for the allocation system for cadaveric donors because there's 120,000 people on all the lists and only about 40,000 transplants, so there's a shortage. And so they tried to spread out how organs are donated, and they went from local, donors in Kansas and Missouri coming to us first, then they went to a radius around the donor hospital up to 500 nautical miles, which is, I think, 640 ground miles. So our organs here now go as far as Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Nashville. And so getting a cadaveric transplant is a lot longer wait, and you have to be more sick, which is a challenge for people waiting for non-living donors.
So, Dr. Coomer, we were among the first raising the alarm back in 2018 when this new allocation plan came about because we thought it could have devastating consequences for people in the Midwest. If I'm not incorrect, the bottom line is the organ procurement, those guys who go out and try and talk to people about being organ donors, were getting a lot of donors here in the Midwest, where some of the coastal areas underperformed.
That's absolutely right. So we talk about that as a conversion factor, a conversion rate. Here in the Midwest, had around 75 to 80% conversion rate for deceased donors. When you look at some of the coasts, particularly New York, had one of the worst in the entire country, of 50 to 55% conversion rate. And you think about that, I mean, they have a lot of people, so they have a bigger pool, but much more success was done right here in the Midwest.
So that kind of feels like led to our worst fears becoming true. 83% of the University of Kansas health system donor liver were exported to transplant programs in like Chicago, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Texas. That's kind of tough when we say, guys, just go work on your own donation rates a little bit.
Yeah, that would probably fix it. If we fix donation, that would fix everything. And I think that stat you brought up is striking because you're talking about livers, in particular in this area. 80% of livers stayed locally previously. Now 80% of livers fly out. So that's a complete 180 switch. And what the consequence of that is, it's increased the discard rate, it's increased the cost of transplantation, it's increased cold ischemic time because all these organs are crisscrossing in the air back and forth across the country.
And it just feels like to me the answer is let's work on organ donation locally so we don't have to transport those organs so far and people's organs can stay locally.
Absolutely. It was very interesting. There was a paper that Dr. Schmidt and I are involved in, and you looked at just donation. If you brought everybody up to a conversion rate of 80%, it had 1,000 more livers in 1 year. That solves a lot of problems and saves a lot of lives.
So how is Cindy able to bypass all that arrangement and give her kidney directly to her uncle?
So even in deceased donation, you can direct your donation. It has to be to a specific person, that's allowed. But this is obviously an arrangement. You come in, you're asking to direct your donation to your uncle in this case, or to anyone. You can do that. So it's basically an arranged plan, and we go through an elective process to ensure with testing and so forth that we're going to have the best outcome on the other side.
See, Dr. Schmidt, is there a worry that a lot of organs are not being used?
Yeah, I think there's twofold. Like Dr. Coomer said, all the organs are now traveling, so there's a longer cold time. If you have to get on a plane and travel from here to Chicago, then that adds extra cold time. And if you get that organ and it's not suitable, it might not work, so you might actually not be able to use it on anybody. So you have that added complexity. And then our population is getting older and more sick, and so some of the kidney donors are 70, 75, and there's a question, should we put this kidney into somebody who's on dialysis? But the risk of that are pretty significant if things go poorly, and they may have a bad operation, a non-functioning kidney, and still be on dialysis. So you have to challenge your decision making on whether or not that's worth putting someone through that risk of a marginal kidney versus them not even having that operation, because you might make them more sensitized and never be able to get a transplant after that.
It is so complicated, isn't it?
Yeah.
The best thing is if we get more donors, we can solve a lot of those problems.
That's the key.
All right, Steve, we just heard about a conversion from a purple to a blue kidney. But for a Jayhawk like you, what is it like to have a Wildcat kidney? What's that about?
It's tough, but you know what? I welcomed it wholeheartedly, 100%.
So now I'd asked you, I'm going to review it before we started in the studio. We were in here, we were laughing a little bit. KU K-State last Saturday, who'd you cheer for?
It was KU, but you know, towards the end of the game when I saw them winning, it's like, okay, they got us again, 15 years in a row, but next year, watch out.
And you know, there is basketball.
That is true.
Although they have more cat game last time. It was a little
Coach Tang.
All right, here we go, man. We'll separate the two of you.
Bill Self is the #1 coach in the country.
We'll agree to that. Cindy, what's your advice for others trying to donate a kidney?
Do it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like I don't feel like anything ever happened to me. I have had absolutely no problems. And Uncle Steve's jumping around like the Energizer Bunny. So, I mean.
His wife probably said, "What did you do? He's driving me crazy."
Probably. They probably want to put you in like Ritalin or something.
That would fit well at this time.
The ROI was just, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And does Cindy need to worry about the donation of that kidney? Is her remaining kidney going to be good enough to keep her alive forever?
Absolutely. We have great outcomes. There are some things that can happen with living donors, but really they have the same chance of having kidney disease as the general population, which is about 1%.
Okay.
I think just seeing her relative do so much better, people are afraid, like, what if I give him my kidney? But look at the response. I mean, he's got a much better life, longer life. He's around for the grandkids. Those are the reasons why. And there's people sometimes are afraid to take a kidney, but it's the outcomes are so much better.
No dialysis.
Yeah, no dialysis.
The answer is in the story.
In fact, weren't you like, they had scheduled you to begin dialysis, and like a week after we were scheduled for surgery. So it was like
my
so
GFR was down to 10. So I just started stage 6, and my nephrologist said, I need to port you. And I go, what can we do to get me by for 4 weeks? So he says, low phosphate diet, be good, don't deviate, because once you get 9 and look at what's happening to your body, we'll have to start dialysis. 4 weeks flew by, I was very good, and boom, the rest is history. We didn't have to start dialysis.
That's an amazing story.
So it was great.
So Alexis Delson has been monitoring our feeds for your questions. Alexis, I bet there's some questions out there this morning.
We have some really great questions. The first one's from Yen Liang, one of our regular viewers. He has a double question. First one is, what kind of examinations would you do on someone like Cindy to make sure that she lives a healthy life with 1 kidney? And then part 2 of his question is, and then would Steve need to take antiviral or anti-rejection medications for the rest of his life? Is that always reality for the recipient?
Yeah, I think we talked about the anti-rejection.
That is,
you got to stay on those.
Yes, the rest of his life.
That's
and
a
I think
lifelong thing.
there are some programs that try to wean people off immunosuppression, but overall, those are most likely not going to be as successful. So yes, rejection medicine.
And hopefully less than you had to if you have a kidney that's not quite as well matched. But it's really about the match at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think just like 2 different sports teams, the kidney will find its new home up front. The immunosuppression is high, but over time they become used to each other, and you can drop the immunosuppression down to a lower level as time goes on.
I wonder if we could do that for a wide receiver with the Chiefs. What do you think?
Maybe just
Whoa! No, in trouble for that one. Okay, so well, how do we monitor Cindy's
on that though, Dr. Coomer does sometimes toss me the kidney, and I've never dropped one.
Never dropped it?
Never
All
dropped
right,
it.
well,
Excellent.
Clearly we're going to have a visit from some regulatory agency now. That does not happen, trust me.
So talk to us a little bit about what do you do to monitor Cindy's health?
So what happens by regulation, UNOS wants us to see the donor every 6 months for 18 months. And then what I always recommend to the donors is please see your primary care physician every year, particularly with interest around high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Those three things can wreak havoc in the last remaining kidney, and of course we don't want to talk later down the road about Cindy's kidney disease if she has that.
And I think that's part of the screening process to make sure she's in good health regarding all those things up front.
Absolutely.
So far, clear sailing for you?
So far, so good. I've had no problems. In fact, after we get done with this, I go do my lab draws for my 6 months. So.
And your kidney's performing pretty well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's producing a lot of urine.
Who knew you could still do that? And how long has it been, 6 months?
It's about 5.5 months. And yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Cindy.
All right.
God bless you, girl. Love you.
Paul has a
Alexis.
question for Cindy. So, Cindy, Paul wants to know, what did you know about kidney transplants before making this decision to donate your kidney to your uncle? And did any previous knowledge help you make the decision so quickly?
I knew about deceased donor transplants and things like that, but I didn't know anything about being a living donor. So I Googled it, like everybody does. Excuse me. I Googled it and read up on things from the Mayo Clinic and KU Med Center, and felt like I knew what I needed to know to move on.
Marie has a question, and again, this goes to you, Cindy. Can you still drink alcohol? Marie wants to know if you have donated your kidney. Or Steve, do you have any limitations on if you can drink alcohol or not? And this is a two-parter, are there any medications, Steve, that you can no longer take with a donated kidney? But let's start with the alcohol because we're heading into the holiday season. Any limitations on that?
Well, I will say hopefully not, because it's football season. I've been doing some tailgating lately. But no, I have had no problems whatsoever with alcohol or anything else. So yeah, I don't know about you.
I don't drink alcohol. Before my transplant, I had a glass of wine maybe 4 times a year.
Okay.
Now, though, after the transplant, I have no desire. It's one of those things where it's like, protect.
Right.
I don't have any inclination to have alcohol anyway, so I'm good on that.
Alexis, let's just check to the experts. Dr. Smith, what do you think?
Yeah,
Alcohol.
I think he's right. Moderation is okay, especially with kidney transplant, but anything too much is always bad, because too much alcohol can cause dehydration, blood pressure problems, other issues. Medication-wise, we certainly recommend the NSAIDs, because they can cause havoc to kidneys after transplant, and
So like Motrin and
Advil,
and all that stuff. Yeah, no doubt.
and then certain antibiotics or other medication can cause the Prograf levels to be up and down, or change
and
the.
some drug, and some things like grapefruit juice and things of that are bad plan.
And so the
whiskey good, grapefruit juice bad. That's how I look at it.
Pharmacy gives them a plan, and anytime anything changes, definitely run it by the nephrologist or your team. That way we make sure there's no contraindications to new medications.
All right, Alexis.
Great question from Kinsley. Kinsley wants to know if the donor ever has to pay anything out of pocket for donating
Did you
an
have
organ.
to pay anything?
Nope,
Nothing.
0.
All right.
It was all on
Excellent.
him.
Yeah, so
On him. That's what
yeah, so yes, that's exactly right. The recipient's the recipient's insurance covers everything for the donor. There are incidental costs, and there is a National Living Donor Assistance Program which runs through American Society of Transplant Surgeons, and that helps offset the costs. And then, of course, the transplant center helps with some of those things, like transportation, lodging, things of that nature.
So really, you didn't have to pay for the Holiday Inn or anything like that. You're all good.
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome.
I'll pay for it.
Awesome.
Adam has a question. Adam wants to know, is there anything you can no longer do if you donate a kidney?
Cindy, they take things away from you and say you can't do that anymore.
No. I am just like I was before we started this, so I have had no repercussions.
Is that the case all the time?
Well,
She's
yeah,
pretty
most of the
awesome
time.
here.
Yeah, most of the time that is the case. You know, we tell people.
Except
you know,
for the tailgate.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk
Yeah.
about that. But
The first 6 weeks is where the limitation is. We don't want people overexerting themselves, getting hernia, or want them to heal. And then after that, I always tell the donors you can do anything you want. Aside from the NSAIDs that was brought up before.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And we say NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and that is Motrin, naproxen, aspirin,
Aleve,
all that stuff. Alexis.
Such a great discussion. We had one more question, and the doctors have touched on this. Can you give just refresh us on the estimate of how long Steve's donated kidney will last now?
I heard you say 25 years, man.
Yeah, we've had kidneys here that have lasted 40 years from a living donor. So
That's crazy.
it's the better he takes care of it, and the healthier it was when it goes in, perfectly healthy kidney, and he's taking great care of it, it could last 30, 25 years.
And if it doesn't matter if the donor's younger than they are, if the donor's older?
Yeah, the kidneys do have a shelf life, so older donors do last less, but her kidney should last
For a very long time.
Very long
I think he
time.
just said you
So
were young.
what you're saying is that I am fabulously young
That's
and
what I
I'm
heard.
not 54 years old.
All right, this has been I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite programs we've done. It's been a great discussion. I think it's because of our terrific guests, not because of these guys. And I am really grateful to all of our guests for being here. I'd like to get a few final thoughts before we go. Steve.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Sandy. What a blessing. And especially this season where you do count your blessings. I'm very blessed. And thank you for my new life. I'm able to do things with my grandkids now. I've been to a lot of sporting events and school events, and it's been awesome. Like you said, the Energizer Bunny. What can I say? Thank you.
That was beautiful.
For me, I would just say if anybody is remotely interested in doing this, to check into it. It was not a rough process, and like I said, I've had no problems. I mean, it's like it never happened. People will stop, because I put things on Facebook, and they'll stop and say, "How have you been? How are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good. Like, what's the concern here?" And I forget that I gave a kidney away. So yeah, it's been good.
I have one last story.
Please.
About 4 weeks prior to my transplant, I had a client come to visit me. And we were talking about my upcoming transplant, and he was all ears. Little did I know that about 3-4 weeks after the transplant, I get a call from his wife. And she said he had passed. Suddenly, he had a stroke, passed away. I was just, oh my gosh, Sherry, I'm so sorry. She said, well, there's good things that come from this. She said, after he visited you with your upcoming transplant, he was late for renewing his driver's license. Funny how that works. After he met with me, he went to get his driver's license renewed and made sure he put donor on his card. So in his passing, the nurse comes into the waiting room and told her, I need your approval for donating his organs. And she says, yes, by all means. Both of his kidneys saved two 73-year-old gentlemen. Parts of his heart went other places, eyes, skin, etc. And she said, Steve, that was all because of your conversation, educating him about donorship. Unbelievable. Unbelievable story.
Paying it forward. Absolutely. That was a great story. Dr. Kimmer?
Wow, I don't know how to follow that one. That's fantastic. I mean, I think that tells everything about transplant right there, and community and saving others. And I guess in this time of Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for donors, living and deceased, and the families that make those difficult decisions for their loved ones. And because it really is paying it forward, and it really is saving in their life, multiple lives from one donor. So thank you all.
Yeah, I agree. I think why we do what we do is right here. This is the reason why. And we couldn't do it without donors and people who give the gift of life. And we're just loading the trucks to do that. And putting people's lives back together and seeing it at the end after it happens is really fantastic.
Yeah. It is. This is the best.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now everywhere podcasts are available.